Hi, welcome to the 2-hour grind. I'm Nate, and today I'm going to be working on finishing up this Magik piece. So I started this on a previous stream. The pencil stream is up on my channel if you guys are interested in checking that out. Or that might have led you right to this one because it should have been linked at the end. Anyway, so I'm going to be working on her. I got pencils. I still got to finish, tweak some things, fix some things. So for instance, her thigh looked like it was kind of bulging up too high. I got to just change the direction of her like shorts just a little bit, right? Bring that down, fix her hand back here, her arm back here, fix this hand here. Granted, it looks weird, but it actually is kind of how it's supposed to be. It will get there, right, as I draw through it. Chapters will be down below for the steps. So the first one's going to be pencils. Then I'm going to be doing coloring with Copic markers, Prismacolor markers, a little combination of the two. And then my final step is inking on top of it all with the black. I like to do that last. It'll kind of bring everything together and really pull it together, hopefully. That's usually what it does, but you got to bear with it and get through the process. So that's kind of going to be what the video is today. So let's rock and roll. I'm using this Magik figure from the Book of Ashanti, Magik Marvel Legends, as my reference. This is what I was drawing her from the other day. So this is kind of where I was at with it. So I'm going to just be kind of going through Charizard piece. So I like to use a 2H. lead. That's just my personal preference. So 2H, it's a harder lead. It goes down lightly. So it does take a few layers to really build up the value level, and that's kind of why I like it. You know, I don't jump to dark too fast, and I really don't want to, like, you know, have the pencils be too dark anyway, especially when you're starting off with the drawing portion. And when I actually go over and put like the markers on top of it, it'll blend a little bit or blur things or smudge things, right? So I kind of want to avoid some of those. Some of that can happen. All right. I am using like a warm gray paper, so not a white piece of paper. And the reason I like to use a tone paper, you get that mid-tone right away. So when I can go over on top of it with like the white Uni Posca, what I like to use. I mean, there's plenty of other things you can use for like your white acrylics or whatever on top. That's usually what I like to do. So that'll kind of, you know, give you both ends of the spectrum for the value change, right? So that's kind of why I like to use the tone paper. Same with, you know, that's kind of why I like to use the 2H lead, because it's a lighter lead when I put it down, and it gives me more of that time to like build up the value layers. So she's got her like cool armored arm on this side. It's got a bunch of different spikes. Just kind of got like a elbow pad. Now there is this little weird thing that I just did by accident. So you don't want things to line up too straight, all right? Like, so I got to move things around. You want things to feel like they're overlapping when you're putting something in front of something else. I don't want to have it line up straight with, like, you know, her chest into her arm, her up arm. So I got to actually like change where those two parts are sitting just slightly as I clean it up. Side when I first was penciling it, like which direction her arm should be or how it should be sitting. So that's kind of why it's still a little bit too sketchy over there, but I'm gonna fix it. I'll get through it. And again, I wanted to fix the direction of her shorts right here. I didn't want it to feel like they were too, her leg was too bulgy. I'll throw this out there. It's a little early in the video, but I like to. So I've sent out a couple pieces to like supporters of the channel previously. So if you sub to my channel and you go over and sub to, you know, my Instagram, message me on Instagram, tell me what about where the, you know, let's see, my minute marker, what it might be right now. Mine might be a little bit off. I saw a reconnecting glitch happen a couple times. So you tell me what the minute marker is when I'm giving this out. You have to be in the US, and I will make whatever character you want. I'll do a commission for you for free, mail it to you. The only catch is you got to be in the US, and you got to post something about it after you get it, right? But free, awesome commission art, I'll send it out to you for free. You just gotta sub here, sub on my Instagram. I have one more of those hidden in one of my other videos that nobody got yet, so most of the others have been claimed. But every once in a while I like to try to give back to those of you that stop by and hang out with me. So if you hear it and you want to claim whatever character you want, full color, and ship it to you. So free free commission. So I kind of got to fix her arm back here, her hand, her sword, all that's got to be adjusted a few times. Always be careful with the direction that you erase. As you saw that a second ago when I came down, it kind of bent the paper a little bit. You could kind of see it. Luckily it didn't crease it. One of the things, depending on the paper quality and the type of paper you use, some papers are a lot thinner than others, and it can kind of mess things up a little bit, and I don't really want that to happen. Like, I love her giant sword, but now, as you're drawing, you also want to think about like the shape becoming a form, right? So one of the things I talk about a lot in my videos is trying to make sure you're doing the cross contour lines that are going around the form and make sure those are overlapping in the right direction. So as her arm is going back in space, you know, that curve, So even like this, it's curving the right direction. If I have it this way, it's curving the other way, right? Smiles and frowns is what I like to tell my students, it goes curves like a frown or curves like or a smile, whatever one, right? It'll curve around that form, and that's kind of how you want to make it feel like it's in that space, or becoming more three-dimensional, more of a form, less of a shape. It kind of bothers me that I kind of crop that sword a little bit. I make her, when you draw a little bit big and you're trying to fill the page, and sometimes things get really close to the edge, you got to be careful where you crop things. You don't want to like crop somebody's hand off, right? You don't want it to be at the very edge of the paper and it's gone. So it gets a little tricky sometimes, and I didn't really want to crop the top of her sword, but most of the sword is there. It doesn't really hurt the image overall, the overall composition. And movement, right? So you want to bring people's eyes across. We read left to right in the US, and you want to bring people in, you look around, you kind of roll down, but this will bring it right back down, so you kind of cover all of it, brings it up and then back around, right? So you think about the movement of the page. I know it's a weird thing to even say as a comic book artist, and when I do comic pages, that's one of the things you want to pay attention to. This is just a pinup, so a little bit different, but very similar. That foot it's a little tough. It's gonna really be that demonic hand, but kind of have some of her fingernails kind of look a little sharper. And I didn't copy this exactly, right? Like I gave this more of an armor, like a shoulder pauldron, instead of just like the X on her sleeve. But character design is awesome. Magik, cool character. New Mutants 14. Oh, I think so. New Mutants 14, first appearance. Inexpensive key. Pretty inexpensive key. I haven't checked the market on it in a while though, so don't quote me on that. It might be. No, I think it's inexpensive. She's got her fans, that's for sure. And I imagine with like Marvel Rivals and things getting more and more popular, more people will kind of get into it and start picking it up. So what I'm doing right now is just trying to clean up like where her skin tone will be, so I can start adding the color. That's going to be my next, juxtaposition, I guess, of the two. I guess that works. Little contrast between the two, whatever you want to call it. But I really want to clean up her like skin tone areas and not have not too many extra marks of pencil. Because the skin tones will definitely they blend it, they blur it, they smudge it, as you will. All right. just some like horizontally, well, somewhat diagonal, but horizontal lines to kind of break up the space. So trying to make a foreground, middle ground, background type of thing happening in behind her a little bit. Like you're kind of looking down on her, so like the ground is actually angled. And once I start to like ink that, it should bring it together a little bit. All right, just got to clean up her arm and her sword, and then it's on the coloring. this would be dun, dun, dun. Kind of angled at you, so it'll be like that. You know, again, you want to make it more of a form, less than a shape. So might have to work on that a little bit. I'm going to just rock with the warm grays for outfit. Start light, work to dark. Same thing I would do if I was penciling something, right? I add the value, continue to add layers of value as I go up. So it's black. I'm not going to start it like the lightest one, so she's black. So I'll probably start at like the 103, 102, 103, something in there for the highlights, and then go from there. So I'm gonna backlight, so there's gonna be some fire back here. Again, my red's dead, but I'm gonna try to work it. Red Dead Redemption, no. So I'm gonna put the fire is gonna be the light source, so she's gonna have shadow on this side towards us. Kind of a backlight. A little bit of the backlight, a little bit of the lighting on this side. I know right now it starts off as shadows, however, it is actually going to be her highlights. Another thing I like to say, is you can always go darker, but it's really hard to go lighter. So start with the lightest you can and add that value to it, right? If you start too dark, you can't really go backwards. There are ways to fix it. I use like the white Uniposca, and then I'll go back over top of the white Uniposca with whatever color. If you're using grayscale paper, though, then it's going to really pop things out, and be a lighter gray. To get away from those lines that you'll sometimes get, you know, when you're coloring. These actually almost look identical as well right now. Again, as I add more layers of gray scale, she should start to come together a little bit more. Now, sometimes you want those lines, though, right? Like, sometimes if you can move it however you want to move it. Kind of put your own spin on any of it. So I know I don't need to color as much as I am coloring in on her with the gray, because I'm going to go back over it with a darker gray here in a second. But, again, it's just kind of how I work. Not the most efficient sometimes when you're on a time crunch. However, I like the way it blends if I fully develop the whole area. And there are other couple metal pieces like her belt buckle and things like that. They're going to actually get that cool gray as well as her other arm. Hence why I haven't touched it. I wanted to have that difference, that look like it's a different material. And that's one of the best ways to do it. also trying to use that same technique that I use when I'm drawing. Lines going around the form, those cross contour lines while I'm coloring to kind of, you know, curve it while I'm coloring it in. So it kind of feels like it's goes away from a shape and becomes that form. You know, I want it to feel three-dimensional. I want things to be over. I'm about an hour into the 2-hour grind. I'm getting close. Making some progress. Excuse me. Some skin tones. So I bought these on Amazon. They're actually pretty dope markers. They came with a cool little color swatch that you got to like fill out on your own. So, you know, you can just kind of see all the different tones, skin tones and things that it came with, and then set up. So what do I want to use? Dun, dun, dun.